Right, welcome guys. Venom: The Last Dance has the audience and critics split. Just like the others, actually, to be honest. 79% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, although not many people have reviewed it. And 36% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, loads of people always go, Rotten Tomatoes is meaningless, blah, 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 blah. Look, I agree. It absolutely has been gained before. However, the good thing about Rotten Tomatoes is just measuring how many people actually review something. And that shows interest. So you can use some metrics of Rotten Tomatoes. It's not completely defunct. But it's got everyone split, and it's not really doing majorly well at the box office. And so that carries over really nicely to not many people reviewing it, basically. And I think this comes from, you know, people just being disappointed that it was never going to be R-rated. Which I understand, albeit, you know, I'm someone that actually enjoyed the first one as a dumb movie. Like, I just thought it was dumb fun. Hated the second one. Thought the second one was utter trash. So, yeah, I understand why people are disappointed by it never being R-rated. But let's take a look anyway. So, Deadline has some interesting reports on this. They've got two, which we're going to take a look at. There might be some crossover between both of them, but it's still interesting nonetheless. Also, side note, hit subscribe if you're new here, folks, or if you're just a passerby that generally watches the channel. YouTube has changed the algorithm recently, and it's nerfing the channel massively. So if you're one of those people that just drifts in, watches videos, and then leaves, please do hit subscribe. That'd be great. And do turn those bell notifications on. Anyway, so, like I said, Deadline has an article on this too, which are quite interesting. So the previous Venom Let There Be Carnage drew 10 million people during opening weekend off of a $90 million opening. And the threequel, Venom: The Last Dance, is pulling in close to half that in admissions. Yeah, it's real bad. The numbers speak for themselves, at least at the domestic box office, and fewer moviegoers are making time for Sony Marvel's Venom: The Last Dance. Which is interesting because, well, it's not too surprising, but it is interesting. You know, Venom and Sony, they really did try to make you aware, this will be the last dance. This is the last movie. Like, get people to watch it. But people don't care. It's interesting to look at moviegoers' habits and how they just have slowly started to switch off to things. But basically, it's going to go for about a $52 million opening, which is not good. It's got a $22 million Friday and previews, which is $13 million less than the $65 million projected opening. And it's $38 million less than the previous installment's franchise domestic record opening. Venom movies were never made to speak to the top of anyone's intelligence. That's what they say here. And they're true, they're not intelligent movies. But they're not bad generally either. However, it's actually doing quite well at the domestic box office. Not incredible, but it's doing okay at the domestic box office. So, yeah, internationally, Sony's Venom: The Last Dance has done 50.8 million from 64 overseas markets. That's great. That's good. So despite domestic's underperformance, the full global weekend is going to look to be about $180 million. Interesting. Like, genuinely interesting. Now it says here, Venoms were always herky-jerky. Jekyll and Hyde, mish-mosh, earning B+ scores, good enough to fly with mass audiences. And this time around, the threequel gets a B-. If there's one sequel audiences are returning to, it's the second night of the World Series to see whether the New York Yankees can bounce back. So, to compare, it would be easy to scream Joker at Sony in this instance, but it's not apples to oranges, it's like apples to a chair. At a projected $180 million opening, plus 5% ahead of Carnage, Last Dance is bound to course correct, and the plan is to profit. The first Venom grossed close to $247 million after all ancillaries. Sony didn't willy-nilly spend a near $200 million on a musical, Venom here. something fanboys would severely reject. I like how the trades are ripping on Warner Brothers. Like, oh, it's not a joke, a folie à deux. No, it's not. So Sony kept their production costs in line at 120 million before P&A, which is great. Very similar to the first, with the co-financer partner TSG. If Sony gets faulted for anything, it's for making more of the same old in Venom, and not one-upping enough from the previous installment. So the third installment here was sold in ads, as the exciting conclusion. Furthermore, there was the introduction of a supposed fan fave villain in Null, but a good portion of people who watched the previous two Venoms aren't rushing out, which is true. And again, that's why Venom, Rotten Tomatoes, is a good metric to work with, actually, because you can see the interest, people reviewing it. So, yeah, we can talk a little bit about Let There Be Carnage, but it's not that interesting. But let's take a look again a little bit more at the international stuff, because that's done really well. So the China gross through Friday was $22 million. Saturday, not reflected in the overseas cum above, pushing that to an estimated $36.8 million across 4 days, and now expected to reach $45 million through Sunday. That's just China, not included in that amount above, because they don't really get anything from it. This is despite a 6.8 critical score from Douban versus, that's like China's Rotten Tomatoes, I guess, versus the 7.2 earned by 2018's Trilogy Starter. So the audience score on Maoan has also dropped another smidge. So it's not going to do great in China moving forwards after this weekend. Like, the word is out, it's not great. Even Chinese state media is endorsing the movie, but again, audiences aren't, not liking it as much. Calling its opening impressive and robust. Further, it was noted that Sony hired Chinese actor Jia Bing to voice Venom in the local release and created promotional materials inspired by Chinese culture, such as a poster for the film that's reminiscent of traditional Chinese art. So they've done really well with that, catering to the Chinese, it seems, and it's paid off. So here's the other markets. 2.8 in Mexico, Korea 2.3, UK 2 million, Germany 1.8, India 1.7, Italy 1.3, Australia 1.3, Indonesia 1.1, Saudi Arabia 1.1. The take-homes actually are places like Korea, Mexico. To earn $2.8 million in Mexico means a lot of people went out. Like, peso to dollar's not exactly great, is it? Korea as well. Again, Korean currency to the dollar, not exactly solid. And Indonesia. Those are the take-homes where you look at like and you go, that's done really well, actually. So Venom's kind of broken the Madame Web curse, but it's still not done great. Where will this end up overall? Will it be a box office bomb? It'll probably make some money, but not a lot. And I can't imagine Sony are mega happy with this as the end to their Venom trilogy. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop it down below. Cheers, take care, bye-bye now.